let's bring in our pal Bernie Goldberg. Is a big media guy, as everybody knows. Comes to us from North Carolina. BernardGoldberg.com, where Bernie has analysis every day. I read it. Okay, I don't listen to Bernie, of course I don't, but I actually read it because it's entertaining. And once in a while, I make some good points. Now, I'm going to play you a soundbite, Goldberg, but I want to set it up. So after Kimmel's firing was announced, CNN went wild. I didn't monitor MSNBC, but they couldn't have gone more wild than CNN. Freedom of speech, under assault, under assault, under assault. And what CNN does every day, not just in this story, is they book people who are going to say what CNN wants them to say. They don't book O'Reilly, they don't book Goldberg, they don't book any dissent, there's no discussion, there's no debate. So they bring in a guy named Jamie Raskin, one of the biggest Trump haters in the country, all right, a congressman from Maryland, and Caitlin Collins, their anchor, who's gone very far left in the last year or so. All right, she baits Raskin the way they always do every night. Roll it.
Well, it's absolute corruption of government, and it's absolute violation of the free speech rights of the people and of the media. And this is really taking us back to the days of King George, where it was a crime to insult the president. They didn't like what Jimmy Kimmel said about Donald Trump.
Okay, so that's ridiculous because, as I pointed out, conservative traditional pundits or politicians can't get on any of the three networks. So this is, I think that might be a danger of freedom of speech. What do you think, Goldberg? Where am I going wrong here?
Well, I'm shocked, Bill. Actually, you made sense today. Let me start out, and congratulations on the book, by the way. That's a very big deal. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Let me start out with the simple stuff. Despite what people on CNN were saying almost all night yesterday, Jimmy Kimmel doesn't have any First Amendment right, any free speech right to say what he wants. Only the government can tell you, has an obligation not to tell you what to say or not to say. ABC, Disney could have fired Jimmy Kimmel because they didn't like the color of his tie, or because they didn't like what he said about the quote unquote MAGA gang. So that's fine. And if that's all there was to the story, he said it, he's paying a price. That's the way it goes. But I disagree with you slightly, Bill, or at least I want to open the door to another idea here. The government can't use coercion to do the job. Well, let me put it this way. The government can't coerce ABC, Disney to do the government's job. And if Brendan Carr says, we could do this the easy way or the hard way, or you could either fire Kimmel or you're going to have trouble with the FCC, that's a kind of coercion that tiptoes into First Amendment issues, I think. It's a gray area, but I think it could be a First Amendment issue when the government uses coercion to get a private company to do what it can't do. Let me say one other thing, if I might, Bill. Conservatives, Trump people who like Donald Trump should not be celebrating this, because sooner or later there's going to be a Democratic president, and maybe a progressive Democratic president, maybe somebody like AOC. And don't say AOC will never be president. It's impossible. It's not impossible. And we don't want that person saying, I don't like what they're saying about me. I don't like what they're saying about me on this media outlet or that media outlet, and I'm going to shut it down because I don't like any criticism. We conservatives would yell bloody murder about that, and rightly so. So before we get too happy about Jimmy Kimmel's demise, think about that.
Cold and flu season coming on up. We all know it. And it really is nothing to take lightly. So when people start getting sick all across the country, medications disappear. Everybody wants it at the same time. So it's very, very smart to have a pharmacy you can count on, like All Family Pharmacy. Right now, they're helping Americans get ahead of the curve with 10% off antibiotics, antivirals, other essentials. You know how important it is to have the right meds when you get sick, particularly when your kids get sick. You don't want to be going into the doctor's office, spending all the time. You want to have them at your home. So if you have a few months' supply, you don't have to worry. And that's what we're doing here. If you believe in medical freedom, okay, and taking care of your family, as I do, this is the pharmacy for you. Please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. All right, but it's already happened. As I pointed out, it's already happened. For almost 10 years since Trump got into the political marketplace, the networks have shut down all conservative and traditional opinion. So it's already happened. So you don't need AOC to do it. The networks did it by themselves for whatever agenda reason they wanted. So that's where Carr should have gone. So the mistake that Carr made, and the president himself, was zeroing in on Goldberg and Kimmel. That they're part of the problem. But the big problem is the censorship exclusion that the corporations absolutely imposed.
That you're absolutely right in what you said factually. But private companies are allowed to be unfair. Private companies are
not
allowed
if you're licensed by the FCC. You can't run a propaganda channel in this country. You can't. You'll lose your license. They looked the other way under Biden, under Obama, because they were cheering on the networks, Obama and Biden. But you cannot do it because there's a fairness doctrine, Goldberg, and you know it. You worked for CBS for like 85 years, since Rutherford B. Hayes. You know what the fairness doctrine was. And you know who did this to the fairness doctrine? Dan Rather. Cronkite actually obeyed it. Rather gave it the middle finger.
I want to be very clear about this because I don't want any of the people listening to us thinking I'm defending the exclusion of any opinion that doesn't jibe with the opinion that they want. Because you're absolutely right. They're unfair that way. But I would argue, I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I know a little about this stuff, but I want to be clear that while it's wrong, it may be legal. It's wrong to keep people on. It's wrong to say we don't want conservative voices because we don't like conservative voices. It's wrong when they do it in news, and it's wrong when they do it in entertainment. But it may not be illegal. That's my point, Bill.
I'd like to see it, the Supreme Court hear it, because it is such a threat to the nation. This is exactly what Beijing and Moscow are doing right this second. You cannot have any dissent. And that's what the networks imposed. And most people didn't even understand it, or don't even understand it now. I mean, if I want to go on Good Morning America, where I was plenty of times, they will not book me. Neither will the Today Show. Neither will Jane Pauley at Sunday Morning CBS. Now, I cracked through, I don't know whether you noticed this or not, with Major Garrett at CBS this week. And I was on CBS for the first time in 10 years because they sold to Skydance. And Skydance apparently doesn't want the exclusionary censorship of non-liberal voices. So there's a glimmer of hope.
Bill, I want to be very clear that when I say a progressive president would shut down, I know progressives in real life, they would shut down conservative speech in a second.
Sure.
And you're saying they've already done it. I get it. I get it. But you don't want to cheer the demise of Jimmy Kimmel because the other side will do it if they could and make it even worse than it is now. They would find a way.
I got it.
Shut down.
Last question. I think there's a rebellion now, a television rebellion, because the 77 million people who voted for Donald Trump are walking away from the networks. And the networks, you know, and I know, the ratings are abysmal. All right, they're horrible across the board. It's the last days of Pompeii over there. And cable is going to follow them right over the cliff. All right, because people.
And Bill, that's why and you're absolutely right. And that's why I would prefer Brendan Carr stay the hell out of this and let the marketplace make the decision. Let people say, you know, I heard Jimmy Kimmel say something the other night that I found offensive. I'm not tuning into that crap anymore. Let the marketplace, rather than the FCC, instead of the FCC using its clout, let the American people and capitalism and the marketplace use its clout to take care of stuff like this.
Well, I think it's happened simultaneously now, that's for sure. All right, BernardGoldberg.com. So you do me a personal favor if you visited Goldberg there. It's a very good website. Appreciate it, Bernie. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.